Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host and founder, Fazil Irshad, back with Crossover Sports Talk and Events. I just wanted to welcome all you NFL and NBA fans and all of you that are watching and looking at over all these few last episodes over the last few weeks or so with Crossover Sports Talk. I know it's we're heading in towards the NFL season. It's the last week of preseason. Hope you guys are all well. Hope everyone's doing good. I know it's about another week since my last video or so. I'm going to be having more and more things come on, as we have the season come on with more guests, more sponsorships and whatnot. But I just wanted to appreciate you guys always tuning in and showing love and support throughout my whole time doing this. So I just wanted to dive in, hope for all you guys, checking in with all the news and updates and injuries, moves that are happening in the NBA, the NFL, what's going on. It's been pretty a hectic off season, as we were talking about in our previous episodes. But we're heading into the final week of preseason. Then there's going to be just a few weeks, like a couple weeks, I'd say not even 3 weeks anymore before the NFL season kicks off. So it's going to be pretty crazy over these next few weeks, especially cut down date coming up. A lot of rookies, a lot of undrafted players, late round picks or whatnot. Everyone's fighting for position battles and they're trying to find their spot, on an NFL roster, making an NFL team, so it's going to be pretty crazy in these last few weeks. There were a couple games today, in the NFL preseason for the finale for week 3. I know it was the Giants and the Patriots, and there was also another game between the Steelers and the Panthers too, as well. So I mean, and then the Giants ended up winning today, 42-10, and the Steelers beat the Panthers 19-10. So yeah, Jackson Dart looked pretty damn good today. I know people were talking about him and Jameis Winston. So it was pretty crazy. They got like, with their first round pick, the Giants did get him and Abdul Carter in the first round. So, and then Russell Wilson being that vet, showing that leadership, for, eventually going to be passing the torch over to Jackson Dart is what the Giants want to do, which is why they brought that veteran presence in Russell Wilson. He's been there, done it before and won a Super Bowl. So he's going to try to groom and get, Jackson Dart ready. But he looks good, man. That quarterback, he was throwing some darts. Jackson Dart looked like throwing some darts out there. So we'll see how that even plays out. That's something to keep an eye on. And then, Patriots rookies were also, that were rising and flashing in camp. Was Trayvon Henderson. We saw him do a kick return, and he was looking good in some of his runs throughout this preseason, and he's been looking good in training camp as well as the receiver Efton Chisholm the third. So, the Patriots did bring in a lot of free agents and a lot of big moves that they had, vocalizing their leadership to change. Ever since Belichick left, and then bringing Gerard Mayo. Eventually, that experiment didn't work out, so they went the route of what's his name? Mike Vrabel, getting Mike Vrabel back because even he played for them and won a couple Super Bowls, a few Super Bowls, I'd say, and him being back in that coaching, he coached Tennessee and then eventually coming back to the New England Patriots to coach them. So I think they're in good hands moving forward. It's going to be quite a few different changes or whatnot, but yeah, they look pretty good, no question about it. And then moving on, as you saw for the Steelers, they did have Skylar Thompson play today. I know Aaron Rodgers didn't play. They did have some stars, some of their players starters like suit up today. And then they didn't have, Bryce Young didn't play for the Panthers or whatnot. So it was quite a, show for, position battles. And people for going against the third and fourth stringers, seeing what teams and coaches are going to evaluate to see where they can put their players and stuff. But they did ended up losing. They didn't lose, but they lost Harmon, their rookie first round pick. He ended up getting a sprained knee in this game. So, he was pretty big coming out of the draft from Oregon. So, hopefully he heals quick and gets back on that field real quickly for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we shall see, what happens with them. But those were only two games on today. The rest of the games are going to be there's going to be more games tomorrow, I think, and then I think or all the rest of the games would be on Saturday. No, tomorrow there's a few more games, and then Saturday would be the last slate of games, and then teams are going to start getting ready for the regular season, cut down dates and whatnot. So that's what's going on preseason/regular season. And then I like to mention a few sponsors, as you see right here on the ticker. DJ Regal Warning, Entertainment Group for Eric Lal, DJ and LED Wall, LED Wall, Special Effects Event Production, Lasers, LED Bar, Dance Floor. You can call them at 916-838-6679 and www.djregalweddingscent.com. You can reach out to him for any DJ weddings or flooring or whatnot you need for lighting. He'll help you out with that. And also with Bomar Mail, you need to ship fast and hassle-free. Visit Bomar Mail in Hayward today, your local go-to for all mail and courier needs. You can email James Fareed at james@bomarmail.com. You can contact him as well at 510-760-2515. Hashtag Bomar Mail, hashtag Hayward Business, hashtag Shipping Made Easy, and hashtag Support Local. Reach out to them for any quick needs delivery. As well as Y2K Recycling. Got old electronics, don't trash it, recycle it. We're on a mission to keep e-waste out of landfills. You can call them at 510-925-9919 and info@y2krecycling.com. You can reach them at www.y2krecycling.com, hashtag Y2K Recycling, hashtag e-waste solutions, hashtag recycle. So yeah, moving forward, guys, as in this, we're speaking in the NFL world, Micah Parsons and the whole Jerry Jones debacle that's going on right now. It's pretty. That's getting kind of quite hectic, as we were saying. So there's a lot of drama, for them. We don't know what they're gonna do. I think today, what just happened was, Micah Parsons was. He just removed them all off of social media, all his Cowboy stuff, as you see here. For Jerry Jones, Micah Parsons, they could decide to part ways with him. It depends on what can happen. And then his agent it's, as you could say, sticking up our right there. So their relationship, as we're approaching towards the last week of preseason and heading towards the regular season, there's no deal that has been made for an extension for Micah Parsons, the star-studded linebacker for the edge rushers, for the Dallas Cowboys, the America's team, so they want to try to plan. There was plans of him trying to get franchise tagged and, them trying to turn it into an historic $200 million deal. If they don't reach a new deals, they said that Jerry Jones did offer it back in March. There were reports of that, but eventually nothing came out of it. And I think Micah's team didn't say anything, that happened. Always take it or leave it deal, an historic deal, so we don't know what's going to go on there. I don't really think, out of everything, out of every player, I think even including probably Dak Prescott, you really would think and I like to hear you guys' comments in the section below, like about this. Do you really think the Cowboys are going to trade Micah Parsons? I don't think so. I think they're going to come up with some deal with that, or they're going to eventually franchise tag him. I think they would be really crazy to trade him. Still have a pretty solid team, I would say. Offensively, them adding George Pickens, FCD Lamb, Dak, and that O-line, and they really needed him on the defensive side of the ball because the Cowboys got to make things happen, or else it can get ugly quick over there. But they're always in the news, just like other teams. So we should see what happens with that deal. Something I think eventually will come within that time, but we should see. And then there's some more buzz that was going around as we see here. Jags rookie, Travis Hunter, that was limited in joint practice. They don't want to play him for possibly the last regular season game. So we should see, what happens there. But I think since his position, wide receiver slash cornerback, is very high usage for a player like that. I don't think they're gonna make a lot of like him play in the meaningless game. I think they would probably just bubble wrap him until the regular season. So we should see what goes on there. And then as you see here, and if in the injury report, Titans get great news on, great corner, L'Jarius Sneed, that used to be formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, did win Super Bowls over there. Now he's in, all pro corner, great. He's in Tennessee. They're building some stuff there with Cam Ward. And then the Dolphins, getting the big transition. It's kind of crazy what they did too. Trading Ramsey and then getting back Minka Fitzpatrick, who the player that they eventually drafted in the first round. I think that was in 20. Just don't stand by corrected. I think that was 2018 when they drafted Minka Fitzpatrick, and then eventually they traded him to Pittsburgh that following year, and then he ended up becoming Pro Bowl All Pro over there underneath Mike Tomlin. And then him getting traded back for Jalen Ramsey as a Steeler, and him coming back to Miami. So that's some things going on there. So as you see here too, and then this was another big thing that happened today, which I heard. I know this was probably some rumors that were going on through the draft was with Shedeur Sanders. Like NFL teams were told they were don't draft him, don't draft him. You're gonna have to do Eric Dickerson. As he said here, according, like he was saying, like, oh yeah, don't. Teams were saying to not draft Shedeur, deal with his dad and that headache, and. Shout out to Deion Sanders. He did recover from cancer, from a bladder cancer. He said God is great. You always got to continue to fight, work hard, and pray. God is always there, gonna do what's right for you as long as you believe in Him first. How Dion is with all that, but I guess that wasn't I think necessarily the case why he should have fell to the fifth round. He has the talent, he has the leadership, he has the intangibles to be a great quarterback. I think I honestly was shocked when he got out of the first. Didn't okay. If he didn't get out of the first round, get picked in the first round, you would expect him immediately to get second or third for sure. But he didn't get any of that. People were thinking about first, okay, for surely in the second because of the talent that he has. But he got picked in the fifth round, went to Cleveland, and they potentially have a future franchise quarterback there. But they're starting Joe Flacco, so it's going to be some changes, that's going to go on. But I think Shador's going to climb up that board before this season ends. He might be starting by midseason or later. Who knows? Depends on how Joe Flacco and that team does. But they do have a solid defense. They can make some hay happen over there. So we shall see. We shall see. But eventually, and then there was some other news that happened too this week was the Indianapolis Colts quarterback battle that was going on. That first round pick with Anthony Richardson. Eventually, Daniel Jones got named the starter, which I was like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But there has been some issues that was going on with Anthony Richardson. Him tapping out, saying I'm tired within plays. I was like, I know that's something you should not tell the media, and then let alone, you keep that stuff to yourself. You're tired or whatnot, but you don't want to let the media and your teammates and your coaching staff know, or your ownership, to know about that and saying that you tapped out, you needed a break because you were tired. Because they don't take plays off, they don't do any of that when they're in the middle of a drive. So like that would cause some spark last year. I remember, and then like him, not they're saying his developmental issues or like he keeps getting hurt, and taking these big hits as a quarterback. So it's gonna be here and there, with that. But I still think I wouldn't give up on him. He's still a first round pick, has talent there. I would just need the development that they have. Saint Steichen, what they do over there up in Indianapolis. I think he's a great OC. As with stuff he did back with Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts when they went to the Super Bowl about a few years ago. Eventually lost that one against the Chiefs, and then they eventually bamboozled them in the Super Bowl this past February with Kellen Moore at OC. But moving forward from that, yeah, that's some AFC news on that end of the bargain. There's always going to be battles, man. It's just like eventually, you got to go to camp. It doesn't matter where you're drafted at. It don't matter where you're picked or what it is. As long as in camp, they're going to see who the best quarterback is to play, best quarterback to play. That best fits it. That's going to best help the team win. Coaches see the work ethic, the hard work in practice, and watching film or showing it on the field. They're going to go with you know eventually they're going to choose what's best for the team. I mean, not all head coaches make great decisions, as we've seen in the past. Where everyone's questioning or scratching their heads about certain stuff. But some do it because necessary. I think like they think like, I think this deal is better for the team. I mean this move is better, not deal. Move is better for the team because we're trying, to build something here and we don't want any of that hurrah around it. But this is nothing to say against Anthony Richardson. This is something, like I think he's gonna take and move forward from there. So we gonna see. I think he still has the talent and the chance to be great. Getting into some more and more sponsors now. As we like to talk about Sabrina Bucks, turning dreams into reality, one event at a time. Led events by Sabrina. Bring the magic to your next celebration. You can reach out to her at 707-290-3595. That's Sabrina Bucks86 at gmail.com. Hashtag the Fairy Godmother Experience. Hashtag events by Sabrina. And hashtag, Bay Area and Sacramento events. So he handles both, guys. Then also SubiGarage and auto sales, quality used Subarus, clean titles, great deals. You can call them at 949-548-0987 and rseraul at gmail.com. They also have multiple businesses that is running over here is Rallysport Auto Spa, premium Subaru detailing. They do detailing as well, interior, exterior, clay bar. You can book them now at 949-691-6239. Service at rallyautospa.com. And then also their repair shop, their mechanic shop with Rally in Sport Engineering, Subaru Repair Specialist, free estimates, 2015 Harbor Boulevard in Costa Mesa, California. You can call them at 949-548-0978 at www.subarurepair.com. You guys can reach out to them in the best way. And then I will also talk about another realtor, real estate, good friend of mine, Blaise Stanfield-Ellison, realtor at Interior Real Estate Services, a Berkshire Hathaway affiliate specializing in residential real estate across the Bay Area. He helps clients buy, sell, and invest with confidence, care, and local expertise. And then Blaise's phone number is 510-364-7083. You can contact him from there. All right, guys. And then now with the moving forward, what we're probably gonna, get into here is what are we gonna think about, the NFL season and what we're probably gonna think upcoming in these next few weeks or so. It's finally here. Football is a different, background with what goes on. There's always usually like one game a week. It's usually every Sunday or like there's Monday nights and then there's Thursday nights. Sometimes Saturdays when they have those specials for holidays. It is kind of different, comparing the schedule. People are like, they mark some days down for their Sundays or whatnot. People that have these traditions. It's pretty cool to see, as we see around the country, possibly even worldwide. With America, it's very different when it comes to the league and when football's on. Because I think NFL, in my opinion, out of all of the sports that we have here, like in America, that's most seen, that you mostly see on TV. There's soccer. I think that's the most biggest global sport. There's the NBA. I think that's also overseas with China, France, everywhere else. There's Canada too, but I think the biggest thing for America, this is baseball too. Baseball with Dominican Republic, Puerto Rican, all these all over the world players, American players everywhere, right? Not saying with the NFL whatnot too, but the NFL has a lot of diverse community as well. But I think with the country within itself, America, I think the NFL is king because it comes on just throughout the fall and winter, and then it just goes straight in, and every game's important. I think that's what a lot of people look at, and then it's just, and in the playoffs, it's one and done. Like you lose, you go home. It doesn't. We don't have like a 7-game series like the NBA does, like the NHL does, like the MLB does. It's one game, and you got to win or go home. You can. What if you have like the number one seed and you have all the talent, all that coaching, all everything going, and you just walk into the divisional round with the home field advantage, and eventually, you get upset and you don't know what comes your way by a sixth, seventh, fifth seed, or even a fourth seed. Like if they win, depending on the lowest seed they play, and then they come in your house and they beat you, and then you go and you're like, man, they had Super Bowl aspirations, and all this stuff didn't happen. So it's going to be pretty different, with I think the way it goes on. But NFL has always been king, in my opinion, for America in itself. So moving forward, guys, also what I would like to mention is what for title contenders. What do you guys think for title contenders? Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, including what's going on with the drama between Micah Parsons and um, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys organization. Do you think he's going to get traded? Do you think he's going to stay? Do you think he's going to get franchise tagged? You can always, there's always things going on, including with, I forgot another player too. There's Cameron Hayward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were saying he was holding out. I think he's going to attend practice, but there was no deal in place yet. And then there was another player that's currently still not paid, and they think he's going to show up, but there's no deal. Was Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. There were rumors of him. They've been rumors since the summer, and until he's requested a trade that he hasn't been paid. He hasn't gotten his contract extension in, and I think he's definitely well worthy of it. He's a big reason why they made it to the NFC Championship game last year with Jaden McDaniels and that Cinderella run they had. I think they're still going to be solid, and the Manny Deebo Samuel. This is another year under his belt with Jaden Daniels, and this is going to a second year. Already a good young quarterback, so it's going to be cool to see. But from people were telling me, like, oh, what do you think of your title contenders this year? I was like, who do you really, really, really see? Like, not just mention team names. Well, it's kind of hard. I was telling people like it is really hard. I can be a homer, I can be biased towards it, but if you guys wanted my honest opinion on it, what I think it is you can't really tell, right? But you already know those teams that, eventually, it's because there's health, people can lose key players, the quarterback, it's any given Sunday or it's any given day, like you can lose a key player and it can derail your entire season. And that is true. That is very true, which is why, you're always holding your breath when you're a fan of a football team. You wish all your players come out healthy or there's no long-term injuries, so you have that opportunity to actually, get a chance to get into the playoffs, to get enough wins or win the division or get a top seed with the home field advantage and get yourself to a Super Bowl. But it's not always that case, like health matters and how you play matters. So that's the biggest thing. So, but going into that, so my teams, what I do have expecting, as we're going in, can't quote me on it. I mean, you can quote me on it, but I was just like, who do I think is always? It's going to be the usual. You got yourself with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes and Reed. You got the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, and Sean McDermott in that squad, and then you got the Philadelphia Eagles. You got Jalen Hurts, Sirianni, and the boys. Solid team over there. And then also, you do have the Detroit Lions. You still can't count them out until they're officially like beaten, like or we see like them falling off the cliff. And then there's another team. There's some. I would throw in. You wish you could throw it. I would throw in the Bengals, but the Bengals can't make the playoffs without that defense that they have. They can have an historic offense with Joe Burrow, but that defense is horrendous. The Baltimore Ravens for sure. No doubt about them. The Baltimore Ravens for sure. Lamar Jackson, Harbaugh, they're always in the mix somehow, some way. So they're always there. And then I would also put in the Rams. If they're healthy and Matthew Stafford is healthy, I think, with Adams added, the young defense, they got some core underneath their belt, they got some players, and then their offensive line running game. I think, they're pretty solid themselves. I would throw them in there. And then including, the Green Bay Packers from the NFC, they got a solid team, young team, but really good quarterback coach. They're good there too. I would throw in there's another few teams, possibly even there was the LA Chargers at one time, the Denver Broncos, sleeper Super Bowl contender. because of Bo Nix and the development champagne. They already have they're probably going to have a top 5, top 3 defense already. That they got everything on every level over there: pass rush, linebackers, corners, safeties. So we should see there. And then the Washington Commanders, another threat in the NFC, as we saw from last year, piggybacking from that. So then I wouldn't want to skip out the Minnesota Vikings, but they do have a quarterback change. But that system's always good with Kevin O'Connell. Defense is good. They're solid there. And then another team, I cannot forget them, but they're always going to be. And I think if they're healthy, they do have their core players. They do have their stars. They do have a great. They brought back Robert Saleh. The Niners are going to be in the mix. I think for surely with that schedule that they have. The way it lines up, the bye week, when it is, that for surely I think should get in the playoffs for sure. And if that, especially with the Rams, depending on how the strength of schedule goes, depending on their health and the Niners' health, I think they can win the division and get a high seed. So that, let alone in the NFC, the AFC is already a stronger conference than the NFC. I think that immediately puts the Niners, already in that just that fringe Super Bowl contender because they did lose out a lot. There's a lot of rookies on the team, but they've been producing in camp and preseason as we saw, but now they got to move it to the regular season. We first have to see. So, maybe probably a month in or a few weeks in or mid-season time, we'll probably get a good feel of where they're at and all the other Super Bowl contenders. So those are my cup of tea for those Super Bowl contenders. I hope I'm not missing any teams, because there can be surprise. Oh, I would like to mention is the Houston Texans too. I would like to say them too. Like you can't forget about CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, and them. So they're always going to be in the mix. And who knows about the Steelers too? The Steelers can be very interesting. They're always in the mix too. And then there's another sleeper team. There's this one more on the fringe too, just like maybe it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because Baker's turned his career around there, and Todd Bowles has done a good job over there with that defense. Mike Evans and Godwin in them. So they're always solid, and they're usually in wild card divisional round somewhere around there, and they can creep up for the contention for the Super Bowl. But in the meantime, those are my legit contenders. I would say just putting them in there that they have a shot, and if not, they can potentially win it all. So those are going to be my specific player teams that are going to be competing for a Super Bowl. So those are my thoughts on it. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you think can potentially be a Super Bowl contender and who can move forward from it and who can make it happen? But we shall see when the season happens. And then also with a few more sponsors before we might be wrapping it up here soon is Mohammed Shiraan, LawPro Legal Services, Evictions, Disputes, 3-day, 30-day notices, residential, commercial, mobile home parks. Call him at 916-709-5518 and Mshiraan@yahoo.com. Then you can also mention Mr. Ibnaez Wahid, broker associate. He's a realtor, Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices, Elite Real Estate. Call him at his direct number at 510-329-3927 and also 916-667-3465. IBOhomes at gmail.com, serving the Bay Area and Greater Sacramento. And also like to mention John Carlo and Zena Corona, licensed financial professionals helping individuals and families build generational wealth, eliminate debt, and protect their future. You can reach out to them, right here at Zena Yassine 063 at gmail.com. Her phone number is 510-461-2496. And John Carlo, his email's right there. It's johncarlowf at gmail.com. You can call him at 858-405-6743. Okay. And then as well, I like to mention a few more is for sale. AJ Jund and AJ and Michelle Jund, real estate and loans at 916-549-2425. The license number right below. You can reach him at enginesh.jund@xbrealty.com, sponsored by CrossOverSportsTalk. And also for all my sponsors and whatnot, you guys, they're all in the description box below, so you guys can reach out to them there. If you can't see them on the video, you can always check this video afterwards and check the description box if they're not too long on the videos, okay? The last one, sponsor of the day so far would be Trailer Pros, expert trailer repair and custom metal fabrication, reliable, mobile, built to last at 916-812-2513, trailerpros@gmail.com. Really reliable, fast, quick, and their best work that they do. They're always great, great rapport, great people. Um, reach out to reach out to them. 916-812-2513. And just a few more things, guys, before I start wrapping it up here. I really appreciate you guys, tuning in and showing love and support for all the channel the whole time. Gonna keep having more and more stuff that's going to be going on. So just keep on staying tuned. Um, we'll continue to give you content because I know it's going to be pretty hot with all this stuff that's going on with the NFL season, and then NBA is going to be. I'll have more stuff for the NBA coming back up when their season comes up in the October, late October, middle of October. I think around that Halloween time is when usually the NBA and NFL season when they're all together at the same time. Yeah, there's going to be a ton of content for you guys, so don't worry. Then including fantasy football. I did have one draft that was this past weekend. I missed one. One of my draft picks because it was kind of late. I was just like, I got a notification. I was like, oh, I got to join it right now. I was like, I got to do it. And then I got a few more other leagues that are coming up. So, I'll show you guys my teams, so we can do that. If you guys want to do a league, if you guys ever are interested, want to do fantasy football together, we can do that as well. Please let me know. Reach out to me. My Instagram, my social media, everything will be in the description box and also in the comment section. We can get that rolling. Please let me know. I'll be for surely love to compete and have fun with you guys, and so I'll have you on the show. Really appreciate you guys and all the care and support that you guys give. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up. I really appreciate it. I'll have my social media, my contacts, all the sponsors in the description box below. And feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, share it, show your friends and family members and everybody. You guys have a great rest of your night. I have more content coming up for you guys, more sponsorships and guests. I'm gonna be having another guest coming on soon. Stay tuned, guys. Well, have a great rest of your night, guys, and everybody take care. Okay.